Hi, I am Anna. I come from www.ntvforex.com. The Asian scoreboard is colored in red this morning. Analysis http ntvforex.com News ID 20E45 F8 2020 26:43:58 AM Markets Fed officials sounded cautious about the economic recovery and said second half growth might be less robust as they saw the virus flaring up in some states, the July minutes showed yesterday. They also worried about the impact from waning fiscal measures. Fed officials provided little new clues about enhanced forward guidance. The division among participants remains, with some preferring a calendar-based guidance while others favor tying it to inflation and employment. The timing of introducing this was vague, however. Fed members stay unconvinced about yield curve control, saying it would hold little benefits in the current environment. They did suggest their longer-term review of monetary policy is about to be wrapped up September. USD strengthened for most of the day but gave up gains eventually. The lack of more clarity on Fed policy going forward, the further reduced appetite for yield caps and other technical considerations by the rumor, sell the fact were at play. A poor 2-0Y auction tailed 0.9 bps, lower beta TOA cover added to selling pressures. The U.S. yield curve bear steepened with yields up 2.2 bps 10 a year to 2.8 bps 30 a year. Bund yields as well as peripheral spreads barely budged. The U.S. dollar prevented further technical losses and even strengthened the back late in the session as real U.S. yields more than reversed intraday declines. EUR/USD fell about one big figure from the 1.193 area to 1.184. The Tradia-weighted dollar jumped from 92.21 to 92.89 while USD/JPY soared back above 106 from an intraday low of 105.1. Sterling ignored stronger than expected inflation figures and fell to the euro. EUR/GBP closed at 0.904, up from 0.901. The Asian scoreboard is colored in red this morning as a more cautious Fed weighs on sentiment. The U.S. imposing more sanctions on Hong Kong, suspending its extradition treaty and ending a tax treatment adds to the gloomy background. South Korea a 3.6% underperforms. Core bonds gain. The dollar, if anything, strengthens slightly. Today's economic calendar contains U.S. jobless and continuing claims. We think the overall risk mood will dwarf the readings, however. Looking at WS yesterday and price action this morning, we could well see some more profit-taking in risky assets. Core bonds should remain well protected in the current environment. That's an ambiguous story for the dollar though. Declining U.S. real yields could hurt the greenback while risk-off is usually supportive. However, after the recent steep declines, we're inclined to give the USD the benefit of the doubt. The failure of Tuesday's technical breaks to hold also suggests dollar moves might have gone far enough for the time being. EUR 1.1815 US dollars 23 is a first intermediate support. EUR/GBP bounced off support near 0.90 yesterday. We expect sterling to remain in the defensive also today given the circumstances. The scarce news flow from the Brexit negotiations suggest more stumbling blocks, a clash over lorry drivers this time on the road to an agreement. NBSP News headlines: the Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee, which oversees the OPEC output cut deal agreed upon in April, concluded that work still needs to be done. Earlier prognosis that oil demand could return to 97% of pre-COVID levels by Q4 seemed too optimistic with growing risks of a prolonged pandemic. Countries who cheated on their production cut commitment, Nigeria and Iraq, were given until the end of the month to come up with a plan for compensation cuts. Brent crude converged this summer towards $45 billion technical resistance. U.S. President Trump directed Secretary of State Pompeo to notify the UN Security Council that the U.S. intends to restore virtually all of the previously suspended UN sanctions against Iran. Trump raises the stakes 1 week after the U.S. failed dramatically to gather support to indefinitely extend a UN arms embargo on Iran. It's uncertain whether the U.S., as one of the 5 permanent union members with veto power, has the legal right to do so without support of other members. In any case, it risks drawing an ugly precedent for the UN's working system. Download the full Sunrise Market commentary. Subscribe our channel to receive the news as soon as possible. Thank you for watching. If you want to read real-time news, text messages to MT5 Expert Advisors page at https://m.me/mt5.expert.advisors.